Hello, hello, my name is Jed, and I love the Devil May Cry franchise. It is one of my all-time favorite video franchises. Back in 2010, after the release of DMC 4, it was announced that Ninja Team would be developing a new Devil May Cry game, and in 2013, the world saw the release of DMC Devil May Cry for the PS3, Xbox 360, and PC, and that's what I'm here to talk about today. Now, I'd be remiss to talk about this game story without talking about the prequel comic Chronicles of Vergil, which takes place about a few months prior to the beginning of the main game, telling the story of how Cat came to meet Vergil after he attacked the virility event under his guise as the masked terrorist during his search for his brother Dante, who a year prior was imprisoned in a prison known as Hellfire for obtaining rebellion while being tortured by demons after hearing the voice of Sparta. Vergil helps Cat learn to control her powers and he saves her from a bunch of demons, and so she gets taken to Hellfire, but the pain causes her to flee her own body, and when she comes to, she begins searching for Dante, which sends the demons into a rage as they kill all the prisoners in search of him after hearing his name. Vergil comes in to save the day, but he's knocked out by 3 big demons, but Cat helps him escape and manages to get him into the brain of the prison and uses her powers on the brain to help him find Dante, but it causes her a lot of pain as the brain begins to fight back, and when Vergil begs her to stop, she kisses him before collapsing from the pain. He goes into Devil Trigger to defeat the demons before the two flee from the demon that exists at the heart of the prison that was sent after them, but combining their powers, the two manage to both destroy the demon and escape. Vergil reluctantly agrees to let Cat help, but erases both his and Cat's memories of the past few days in order to rid them both of the feelings they developed for each other during this journey, as they would only get in the way. A few months later, Cat approaches Dante to warn him, just as she does at the start of the game, ending the comic and beginning the comic is fine. I don't care much for it personally, but it's whatever. It tells the story of how Cat got involved with the Order, and that's really... The art is pretty whatever. It sometimes looks really good, like in the action sequences with Vergil, but other times they can look a little bit off, especially in the faces. Sometimes they can look really, really off. I do really like how the demons are drawn though. They're very well colored and look anywhere from horrifying to downright unsettling and ugly. Which I think works really well, especially since the demons are supposed to be monsters. It doesn't contradict the story much other than Vergil being left-handed when he goes into DT, but that's not a thing in the game. The only thing about the comic that I really question and really want to talk about is Cat and Vergil having feelings for each other, when the comic story takes place over the span of 3 days! The fuck you mean y'all developed feelings for each other? Y'all knew each other for 3 days! 3 days, dude! I thought he was crazy, wanted nothing to do with him at first. She got arrested because they thought she was involved with him! What do you mean they fell in love over 3 days? Especially with how hostile their relationship started out? Yeah, no, absolutely not. I'd call BS of the highest caliber. There's no world where they fall in love after only getting to be together for 3 days. That is genuinely outrageous to me, bro. But outside of that, there's not really much to talk about in regards to the comic. It's a very whatever comic, but it is worth mentioning in regards to the game's story since it is a part of it. But with all that being said, let us move on now to the main game. DMC Devil May Cry tells the story of Donte, a young man who lives on the fringes of Limbo City, dedicating his life to killing demons and sex until he runs into Cat, who tells him about her boss, Vergil, the leader of an organization dedicated to exposing the demons called the Order. When they meet, Vergil explains to Dante that the two are brothers and that they're Nephilim, the result of a consummation of love between an angel and a demon, and that they're the only ones capable of defeating the demon king Mundus. After discovering the secrets of his family, Dante agrees to join the Order, and the trio set out to take down Mundus' army, including a succubus used to contaminate the city's most popular drink, a TV demon to control the news, and even fighting the city itself. During their journey, the Order's HQ is raided, and while Dante and Vergil manage to escape, Cat's captured and taken to Mundus, so Dante sets out to capture his concubine Lilith, who's pregnant with his child, and trades Lilith and the child for Cat's freedom. But during the trade, Lilith is shot and killed along with the baby, which enrages Mundus, though the trio manage to escape, but this outwork weakens the quote-unquote Hell Gate. So Dante and Vergil head into Silver Sack's tower, where Dante fights Mundus and Vergil seals the gate, and then the two proceed to fight and defeat Mundus. With the gate sealed and Mundus dead, the demons are now visible to the humans, and Vergil reveals his true goal: to rule over the humans in Mundus' place, even casting Cat aside because she's, quote, just a frail human. And Dante is appalled by his attitude, leading to a fight between the two, and Dante wins. He attempts to kill Vergil, but Cat stops him and Vergil leaves. Dante is left questioning his identity, and Cat reassures him, and Dante vows to protect the city from the demons, with the two walking off together, thus ending the game. This game's story is dog shit. It is bafflingly stupid, the most boring, basic 2010s anti-establishment story ever. There's really nothing else to say. It is a typical dark and vulgar, super mature game. It is so bad, it's not even funny. The writing is the most try-hard nonsense I could imagine. The TV demon being a news reporter to the succubus being at the core of the most popular drink in the city, and it's a fucking energy drink. Like, come on, you're not even trying, dude. I don't know what else to say. I really don't. It's like you didn't even try. The characters are also horrible, especially the main players of Donte and Vergil. Vergil is bad because not only is his character kind of nonsense, being nothing close to how Vergil should be, even if you are making his different, his heel turn at the finale of the game kind of comes out of nowhere for most people. Hell, I only noticed the details upon replaying the game years later, and even then, when replaying the game for this video, they almost surpassed me too, because I'll be honest, there are little hints here and there that Vergil isn't quite who he portrays himself as, particularly in regards to the way he talks about Cat, which is ironic considering the prequel comic to this game, Chronicles of Vergil, he develops feelings for her. He is in love with her. He erased their memories of the prior days, but from the way Cat talks about and interacts with him, it seems she still has some lingering feelings for him, so maybe it didn't 100% work? I don't know, whatever, I'm getting off track. Back to the fetus leader over here. His heel turn in this game is actually a perfect example as to why I put so much emphasis on sound design and voice lines. His dialogue about Cat when he and Donte are talking about trading him for Cat can seem kind of cold, callous, and uncaring. I only noticed on my second playthrough, but because of the way it's performed, it blends into all his other dialogue. If it was performed with a little bit more edge, a little bit more life, it'd work, but it doesn't. Not because the build-up's not there, it is there, both Vergil and between him and Phineas, asking Donte who would take over if Mundus is defeated. Like, that question just hangs in the air. There is no answer to it. There is build-up here, but it's handled in such a way that it falls on its ass, where they try so hard to make it subtle it falls apart. Kind of the opposite problem Tales of Arise has in its lack of subtlety with Alphen's connection to the Renans, but regardless, while Vergil is bad because what makes him bad is poor execution and directing, resulting in a character that feels flat, basic, and boring, who shoots demons, babies, and wears a goddamn fedora. Yes, that was a thing in the original PS3 version of the game. There's a reason the bastard is called the Vergin. I do genuinely think this version of Vergil is more of a issue of poor handling of the character rather than him outright being bad. There's a difference between the two, with Donte, I personally think, being an example of the opposite. First and foremost, let's just address the elephant in the room.
Not in a million years.
Shut your lame ass up, nigga.
Real bad start. Really bad start. Imagine Donte with long white hair. Cringe. This is Donte. This is way superior to that stupid white-haired anime bullshit. That shit is so beyond disrespectful. I really hate when reboots and reimaginings do that shit, actively mocking and making fun of their origins. Like 2000 superhero movies used to do that shit all the time. It is so annoying.
What'd you prefer? Yellow spandex?
That shit is so corny to me now as an adult, dude. I'm not even gonna lie. Haha, the original was so silly and stupid. Could you imagine these stupid, silly things? Now we're way cooler. We're so much more mature. It's so dumb. And for a Devil May Cry reboot, a large part of the charm is that anime-esque, gothic, Victorian style. And so to disrespect that is beyond stupid. And while I know it's supposed to serve as foreshadowing for the end of the game where his hair turns white permanently, to do this in such a manner leaves a sour taste in the mouth. It doesn't sit right. It also doesn't help that this version of Donte is extremely vulgar.
Get your filthy fucking claw off my trailer. Poor mother. I don't know my mother, but if you're calling me a son of a bitch, you wouldn't be the first. What makes you think I give a shit? Fucking demons. Who invited you, fat ass? What in the shitting hell is going on here? Which one of you fat asses wants to be Limbo's biggest loser? From your prime date, you ugly sack of shit. So he's more than just a fucking dick. Nope, it's a fucking demon. And who are you, fucknut? It's on, bitch! I've got you, motherfucker. I'm here for you, Lilith, so get the fuck down here! Get that skim bag you call an ass down here! That's bullshit. Fuck off! Hearing you scream like one of you little demon bitches?
Shut up!
No, I didn't.
Shut up! Shut the fuck up. Damn. Enough.
This is something Dante just doesn't do. It's the same issue as the Netflix DMC anime, which I actually covered in this video here, which I highly recommend you watch after this one. Dante, canonically, in-game doesn't like to curse much. He is not much of a swearer, and this is partly made a thing in canon because of Ruben Langdon not liking to curse, so they made it a thing for Dante the character. However, this version of Dante is crazy vulgar, again, which I have no problem with. I'm pretty vulgar my damn self. But if a big trait of a character is that they don't like to do a certain thing, it might be a good idea to keep that trait in mind. Part of why the original Castlevania anime and the Sonic movies were so successful. They kept key character traits intact despite the changes that they made, and it felt like the characters were those characters. Such as Trevor Belmont, who in the games and tie-in stuff is described and portrayed as proud, hot-headed, straightforward, and somewhat rude, but still a man of justice and earnest. Turn that up 200, add a bit of sadness and sorrow to him, and you get the vulgar, smarmy, alcohol-loving yet earnest bastard that is Anime Trevor.
Oh please, we're not children.
He shouldn't die.
Yes, fuck you.
These aren't the only traits he disregards either, as he's also incredibly spiteful, crass, apathetic, hedonistic, and uncaring. Things Dante isn't, even as early as DMC 3 when he's at his most smug, reckless, and cocky. Another good thing to probably keep in mind is certain design features for a character, and for Dante specifically, it's his iconic red coat and white hair. If you're going to make a redesign for a character, it is important to ensure you keep certain design aspects for the design in mind. Every main redesign for Peter Parker's Spider-Man features red somewhere in the design. Key part being his main design. Red is one of his suit's primary colors, whether it be red and black like Superior Spider-Man, whether red and white of Warp World's Arachnite, one of the major colors is always red. Mario and Luigi's main colors are always red and green, and even the 1973 Mario Bros. Movie understood this and had them wear red and green respectively. Hell, even the Sonic movies' original dog shit design for Sonic understood the importance of having Sonic's main color be blue, because Sonic's main design color is blue. They also kept his shoes red, the other notable design color for Sonic. You can change Dante's hair color, that's one thing. You probably shouldn't, but you can. But he needs his red coat. Every single main design for Dante has his main outfit color being red. If he doesn't have a red coat on, he ain't Dante. Which makes it all the more ironic that this was Dante's original design. Yeah, it looks pretty damn cool. A bit much, maybe toned down a bit, maybe move the straps on the shirt, but it works. It works very well. This looks like Dante. So what the hell happened? A little company known as Capcom happened, because at Capcom's request, Dante's design was drastically changed even more than what it was. To quote Christian Svensson during an interview with IGN, who worked at Capcom at the time as the VP of Business Direction during an interview.
The original concepts that came back for Dante were actually extremely close to the Dante that everyone knows and loves. Svensson explained, the feedback that came back from Inafune and Itsuno was, no guys, this needs to be completely different. We need you to go much further and be much more creative.
Yeah, this was done because they wanted Dante's redesign to appeal to a younger, specifically Western audience. When the fuck will y'all learn to stop drastically changing your franchise's identity to try and get more people? It will never work. The people who aren't fans most likely are not going to care, and the fans of your franchise are going to be pissed. Especially if it's a complete disregard for what gives your series its fucking identity. A large chunk of DMC's appeal as a franchise is the character's respective style, and that includes Dante and his iconic red coat. And it's especially irritating to me because the reason it was changed, I'm not joking by the way, is because they thought Dante's iconic long red coat would be seen as goofy from the perspective of over here and not cool. And that logic is especially kind of irritating because I'd like to point you to Ragna the Blood Edge and Soul Bad Guy, two very beloved video game pro tags over here in the West who both wear big red coats. What about Vash the Stampede? He's pretty beloved. He wears a long red trench coat. What about Vincent Valentine from Final Fantasy VII? Oh, wait, no. Forget all of them. Forget what I just said because there's a better example than all four of them.
Oh, you dirty bitch, work the shaft.
Excuse you?
Oh, I'm sorry. I like to dirty talk when someone's sucking my dick.
All of this is to say, the idea that the red coat would be seen as silly was stupid then and is stupider now. But why am I rambling about all this though? What does any of this have to do with this version of Dante? Well, that's simple. This version of Dante regards key design aspects that make Dante Dante. Breaking rule 1, keep key design elements intact. He disregarded key character traits that make Dante the person he is, breaking rule number 2, honor the spirit of the character. And they make him mock the OG beloved Dante, belittling the original DMC, which was very beloved, breaking rule number 3, don't insult your fucking audience. All of this culminates in a version of Dante that does not look like anything even resembling Dante, does not feel like Dante, and simply put, is not Dante. Hence the nickname Dante, because you don't want to do what this Dante did. And then there's Kat. She's fine. I have no beef with her. She's clearly just meant to be this game's equivalent of Lady, and if you don't believe me, allow me to give you a quick recap. A human girl and major player in the story of a young Dante fighting against the demons, who becomes an ally and pseudo-love interest for Dante with an attitude and a small chip on her shoulder. What I just described is Lady. She's fucking Lady. They're also both meant to be cool. Lady's meant to be cool in the same way as characters like Trinity from The Matrix or Beatrix from Kill Bill are cool. Strong, kick-ass, no fucks given. Whereas Kat is supposed to be cool in the same way as characters like Ramona, Flowers, or Marceline. The strange but pretty alt girl with a strong will and a bit of an attitude. The problem with Kat though is that she's just the strange, pretty alt girl. She's very forgettable because she doesn't get a chance to do much throughout the course of the game. She helps Dante get into limbo a few times, then she gets kidnapped and tortured by Mundus and needs to be rescued. She can't fight, and her psychic powers only allow her to serve as a guide for those in limbo in game, which they didn't really do much with, which kind of irks me because in the comic we see her use her powers to hack into the brain of a demon prison. But nope, nothing, absolutely nothing. They do nothing with it in game. I feel like overall Kat is a very mediocre character who has the potential to be really good if they had played around with her ability a bit more. Mundus is meh. He's fine as well. I don't care much for him. He poses as a successful businessman. He got eyes on the whole city. He's just an evil bastard. Just like the main series Mundus, he's fine. He does his job. The only difference is he's way more vulgar and egotistical, which is just kind of whatever. Which is a thought process that kind of permeates this entire game. It's very whatever. The setting is very whatever, very bleak, drab, and the environments are just very meh. I liked Limbo City, especially as a concept, a living city that changes and throws demons at you. That's sick, dude. I thought the club was a cool looking environment, Paradise was a neat one, but everything else was very meh. There's not much else that I can think of to say about the story of this game, though I do think it's worth mentioning that the game's ending is different between the Definitive Edition and the OG PS3 360 release, where in the OG game it ends on a close-up of Dante's face, where his eyes spark with demonic energy, implying that he's gonna go after Vergin. And frankly, it's cute that they thought they were gonna get a sequel, so with DE it changed to the one mentioned earlier because that's the version that I played, but other than that, there's not much else to say, and while yes, the game's story is horrible, there is some good to be found in this game. The majority of it, however, it comes from the gameplay.
Favelado e só fica com tio. Olha que cara de pau, que mina mentirão, 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 que mina mentirão.
The gameplay for the game is exactly what you might come to expect from the Devil May Cry franchise if you played 1, 3, 4, 5. It's an action game with lots of weapons and combo ability, and the weapons and the way they interact with one another. You're actually given a pretty solid variety of weapons to choose from. Your base weapons are Rebellion, as well as the twin guns Ebony and Ivory, the sawed-off shotgun Revenant, and the explosive dart gun Kablooey. And they're fine. In the event that I use a gun, I mostly find myself using Revenant or Ebony and Ivory. I almost never use Kablooey outside of when you get it, but that's about it. I don't have much to say about it, or the guns in general for that matter. The game doesn't really give you much of a reason to use them for the most part outside of certain specific combat scenarios, such as when you're fighting the winged enemies, which I think they're called the Valkyries, which in and of itself is not a bad thing, but it can result in the guns feeling like a bit of an afterthought at times. The game also introduces the concept of angelic and demonic weapons, a neat concept that I quite like tying into the game's Nephilim lore. The angel weapons are Aquila, a pair of shuriken blades, and Osiris, a scythe, while the demonic weapons are Eryx, a pair of gauntlets that can be charged patched up, and Arbiter, a giant, heavy-ass battle axe, which has, in my opinion, the greatest impact sound in the entire game. I'm sorry. That sound will just always bring a chuckle to my face. It'll always make me smile. All these weapons are your main combat weapons and can be used to make various combos based on multiple things like timing and directional input. For example, if you're using Arbiter, you can swap out the combo ender for Trinity Smash by swapping weapons. A similar thing occurs with the move Aerial Flush, where how high you jump alters the trajectory of the move. Another thing the game gives you is a traversal tool called Ophion, which works as a grappling hook that has both an angelic and demonic form, which can either pull you towards things or pull things towards you, depending on which form you're using. And the cool thing is that it ties back into the combat, because you can use it on enemies to either pull yourself towards them or pull a scorpion and tell those motherfuckers. And I'm gonna be honest when I say this, that shit is actually kinda tough. And to push you to use these different weapon variants, they introduce angelic and demonic enemies, the Hell and Frost Knight, which can only be harmed by angelic or demonic weapons respectively, which is both cool and dumb. It's a cool idea to introduce enemies that are weak to specific weapons. It's something that the Devil May Cry franchise has messed with in the past, such as DMC 3 Cerberus being weak to Agni and Ruja, or Nevin being weak to Beowulf. But it's dumb because you can only use those weapons to even attack the enemies, as any other weapon type will bounce off of them. This is dumb for two reasons. One, using the examples from before, you can use other weapons against the bosses mentioned earlier from DMC 3. You are not relegated to just their weakness weapons, allowing you to actually experiment with the weapons and bosses and see what makes them tick. The other reason it's dumb is because it's the game's way of encouraging you to use other weapons in a Devil May Cry game. One of the most notable things about the DMC franchise that any fan of the franchise makes use of is the various weapons and switching weapons and the combo mechanics that come with it, and even the style change mechanic. It's an intrinsic trait of playing a Devil May Cry game that you're going to switch weapons, so there was no need to try and force it. However, the idea itself is not the problem. It is the execution, because as we have established, DMC has experimented with this idea before. However, despite my bitching, it's not all bad, as some demons have some unique mechanics around them that I actually think work. I personally think they work pretty well, such as the witch, who summons a shield to protect herself, but will summon red or blue blades. The red blades can be grabbed with Ophion's demon pull and kicked at the witch, or paired with Osiris' moves Prop and Shredder, which will send it into the shield and break it and stun her. The blue blades, however, can't be parried as they come from the ground, but they can be completely ignored and dodged, and the shield itself can be taken down using Aquila's brown grip. But for the overall, I personally think the angel and demon weapons are super fun to use. The demon weapons feel very hefty and weighty with a lot more impact, while the angel weapons feel a lot lighter and faster, but they have much greater range. They also connect to each other very well. They're great weapons that all feel very different from one another, and when combined with how Rebellion works, which it's Rebellion, if you play Devil May Cry, you know how Rebellion works, but regardless, it comes together to make a pretty solid combo system, especially when you add Devil Trigger into the mix. Throughout the franchise, Devil Trigger usually changes the appearance of Dante, Vergil, Nero, etc., whereas in this game, it doesn't really change the way you look. It's more akin to how V's Devil Trigger works, where it changes Dante's coat color to his usual red, changes his hair and eye color, it gives the screen a cool monochrome color effect, it even shoots the enemies into the air, and that's about it. The combat works the exact same, you just get hit a bit harder than you did before. You don't get the buffs and stuff you do in other games like the speed boost and so on, but the screen effect is cool. It changes the UI to a red color and so on. It's fine. It gets the job done. Fun fact, this is actually an in-universe thing, that little like UI thing, like that monochrome color effect. It actually does like affect the world around him. This is something we see in the final cutscene of the game. This is something that we see in the trailers, and that's kind of cool. While the game's combat doesn't get to the levels of crazy that 4 or 5 get to, I think it's pretty solid. Everything about this game's combat is fine. It doesn't do anything crazy stand out, it doesn't do anything groundbreaking, it's just solid. However, one thing I do want to mention though really fast is that I think it's really cool that the loading screens for the game will show you various combos that you're able to pull off in later versions of the game. And or not later versions of the game, like later in the game when you unlock various abilities and so on. And I think that's kind of cool, and I hope future games do that going forward if we ever get any. One thing though that I think this game does really well, and I'd argue it does it better than as any single mainline DMC game, is platforming. As Ophion is not only a combat mechanic, but a platforming mechanic, and along with Angel Boost, a dash mechanic that gets very heavily in conjunction with Angel Lift to move Dante forward and Demon Pull to open platforms you can swing to, and it gets used in some pretty creative ways, such as swinging around a statue of Aziel, Angel boosting across large platforms in order between jumps to get from platform to platform, or even just having to swing and pull your way around in order to get to a far off platform. Another thing I think makes this game's platforming better than most of the other DMC games is that I can pretty much always tell when I'm gonna make a jump or not in this game, and if I fail, it means that I miscalculated something, and rarely do you have to worry about the camera angle randomly changing, so you'd have to readjust on the fly, which can get kind of annoying. Platforming in DMC 1 especially was a fucking nightmare sometimes for this very reason, but in this game, the camera will always follow you when platforming, and so you can see where you need to go pretty much any time, and if you do mess up, that means it's a problem on you. You failed. Platforming in this game is objectively good. It just is. There's no conversation to be had. Platforming in this game is good. Another thing that I think about this game that is objectively good is the music. One thing this game gets pretty right is that the DMC franchise often uses rock music in its bosses and level design. And while, not level design, but like level aesthetic. And while the music for the game isn't anything crazy on the level of songs like Devil Never Cry, Never Surrender, and so on, they're all just solid rock or drum step songs, with the soundtrack for the game being done by Noisia and Combo Christ. And while the Noisia songs are really good, as a big rocker myself, I just want to say, God damn did Combo Christ ball out with this game's OST. This shit bangs, bro.
Can heal our wounds. Sails away the dawn of a broken day.
Now then, as much as a banger the soundtrack is, any talk about this game would not be complete without at least mentioning Vergil's downfall, the post-game DLC which tells the story of Vergin in the demon world after being defeated by Donte as he collapses from his injuries and falls into hell as his mother's grave in paradise, and we follow him on his journey to find his pendant, which he learns is missing, along the way running into his mother's soul as well as demonic hollow apparitions of Cat, Donte, and himself, and though his mother's soul tries to sway him to listen to his heart and return to the light, his interactions with the hollows of Donte and Cat lead him to not only killing them, but surrendering his heart completely, stealing Hollow Donte's pendant and showing it to his mother, claiming to have killed him before going to fight the Hollow version of himself, and after defeating Hollow Vergil as well as reclaiming his pendant, he returns to the place he entered hell from. While there, he is approached by a horde of demons who all bow to him and acknowledge him as the new Demon King. With the demon army behind him, Vergil leaves hell, considering himself to now truly be free. Story-wise, I think the DLC is very whatever. It's fine, there's much to say. I do like the motion comic style cutscenes the DLC has. They're very cool to see, even if it can be a bit jarring to go from a full 3D action scene to a 2D motion comic style cutscene. I also enjoy the fact that the entire story can effectively be described as Hollow Vergil taunting the real Vergil, causing him to become colder and crueler as the game goes on. I also do like that all the hollows kind of represent a different part of Vergil's mental that was hurt in some way, represented by the 3 holes in his heart, each corresponding to one of the hollows. Hollow Cat represents represents his humanity, and she constantly reprimands him for his actions in game when he realizes she is dead hollow, even mocking to his face by calling him weak and pitiful. She's also completely enamored with Donte, meant to represent the pain he feels at Cat effectively choosing Donte over him. She even says things like, "Oh, Donte's a real man, you're not a real man," this, that, and the third. Killing her does quote-unquote heal his heart, but it also begins cutting his remaining ties with his humanity. Hollow Donte represents power and strength. Hollow Donte spends the entire time egging Vergil on, taunting him and mocking him for being weak and frail. He even claims Vergil doesn't belong anywhere, which is why he killed him. He effectively lords himself over Vergil, taunting him with the fact that he's stronger than him, representing not only how weak Vergil feels, but also the fact that he feels wronged by Donte not choosing to side with him instead of the humans. Then there's Hollow Vergil, who represents himself, everything he believes he should be: strong, commanding, resolute, everything he in his current state isn't. He's also the one who has his amulet, the key to his demonic power, and he only gets that back after subjugating, I cannot stress that enough, subjugating as in consuming Hollow Vergil into himself. Does he get that power back, but he also completely abandons his humanity, compassion, effectively killing what little good and light was in him in order to obtain the power to get back up on his own 2 feet. It's a fun little way of showcasing Vergil's own personal hell. You also run into Ava here, who was banished to hell after her death as a result of her love and marriage to a demon, as well as bearing 2 children, and so when Vergil sees her, that's the real Ava that he sees, and she begs him to turn to the light and find his way back to the living world. But with both Hollow Vergil in his ear and his own journey through hell having continued to torment him, turning him cold, he shows her the amulet from Hollow Donte and says that he killed his brother, taunting her with this fact as he believes she favored Donte more, causing her to break down as she believes he killed the real Donte, and she admonishes him for being so cruel. Ava represents both his angelic side and his origin. His leaving her in the end is meant to represent not only him completely abandoning what good in him was left, but also him completely cutting himself off from the human world in the light completely. The ending of the DLC is effectively supposed to represent him being quote-unquote reborn. In order to obtain strength, a part of him has died. He is not the same Vergil he once was. He is now quote-unquote Nello Angelo, or the Dark Angel. Also, fun fact, Hollow Donte was supposed to have his own boss fight, as stated by Rogerio Silva, who worked on both DMC and Hollow Vergil's downfall as a level designer and the head writer of the DLC, but it was scrapped due to time constraints, as you can kind of see that. So like when you look at like the part where they were building up towards that, like the climbing thing, it very much feels like a boss fight, but like I just said, they were cut due to time constraints because they only had about 6 months to make the DLC. This is also where the whole Nello Angelo thing came from, but overall I think the story is solid. It's a solid little story about Vergil going on to truly become the Demon Lord, becoming somewhat evil, even playing further set up for a potential sequel, which again, it's cute they thought that we're gonna get one, but overall the story is kind of just fine. But what about the gameplay? How's the gameplay of the DLC? The gameplay is awesome. Vergil's gameplay in the game is very similar to Dante's, however with a couple key differences that are very much worth mentioning. Namely, he doesn't have Ophion or the guns that Dante has. However, to make up for this, he can shoot illusion swords and has Angel Step and Demon Step to move around, Traveler Sing himself to things or things to him, or just teleporting up and down and all around. He also has various moves for the Yamato as well as Angel and Demon modes for it to make up for not having Angel and Demon weapons. Demon mode Yamato moves are generally stronger and heavier, meanwhile Angel mode moves are faster and lighter. He has a Demon and Angel modes for the Doppelganger as well, which he summons when using his Devil Trigger. You can change the state so it will use either regular moves, demonic moves, or angelic moves. You can also delay it to make it move after you. This is something that Vergil would go on to later be able to do in DMC 5, which I think is kind of cool to think about how much this game influenced how Vergil plays in DMC 5 somewhat. All in all, he plays almost exactly like how you could expect Vergil to play. The enemy variety is the same as the base game, though with one notable exception, with the color-coded enemies no longer being a thing, a decision that I'm more than okay with. Vergil even has his own Bloody Palace, and I think that's really fucking cool. There's not much to say about it, it's Bloody Palace. If you played Bloody Palace in literally any DMC game, you know how it works here. Overall, Vergil's Downfall is a solid DLC with an alright story, with good gameplay, solid music, and really cool looking cutscenes. With all that being said, DMC Devil May Cry is an overall fine product with a mediocre to dog story, great gameplay, amazing music, solid visuals and level design, and some pretty damn good DLC. So the question at the end of the day is, why did this game end up being so hated? Ultimately, what I think it can be boiled down to is the story and characterization changes that work for a franchise that is very beloved, They make a lot of changes to Dante that make him not really feel like Dante, even having him mock the OG games. They don't put much emphasis on Vergil's weird tics to build up to his heel turn. They don't do really much of anything with Kat, who's supposed to be the game's equivalent to Lady, one of the most badass and beloved characters in the franchise, and the game as a whole is obnoxiously vulgar to the point where it can stop being funny and starts being corny. And while I definitely agree there are a lot of critiques to levy at the game, both story and gameplay wise, the gameplay itself is solid. Like, yeah, we've had better, but that doesn't automatically make this one bad. That's like me saying that simply because I think Kamen Rider Kabuto is great, Kamen Rider Build has to be bad. No, that's stupid. I think both shows are great, but Kamen Rider Kabuto is just the better show. The music is also, for this game, great. The levels are pretty solid, and honestly, honest to God, outside of the story, I think everything else ranges from good to amazing. So what I ultimately really think it boils down to, even deeper than that, what I just mentioned, everything that I just talked about, is that the reboot is a completely different style from what DMC is. DMC is a franchise that has a very specific style, energy, and the reboot just isn't that. DMC has a very anime-esque appeal, a very colorful rock style, and a gothic Victorian aesthetic. Overall, DMC has an appeal that's pretty Japanese in its style. This game is aimed for a far more Western perspective and style, aesthetic, and so on, and in some places it worked, but in many others it didn't. This game is effectively to DMC what Ninja Gaiden Z is to Ninja Gaiden or Tales of Arise to the Tale series. A game targeted at having a more Western style and perspective, however, unlike both of those games, this game is actually good on an overall level. The only bad part of the story, but even then, there's some good things there, like Vergil and Dante being Nephilim, the combination of an angel and a demon. There's room for improvements with the enemies and overall gameplay, and especially with the story, but the same thing can be said for mainline DMC. The music is amazing. It has objectively the best platforming in the franchise. This is a good game. So what I really think the hanging over issue for this game is that it's called DMC, and that it's trying to be the new thing. DMC up to this point set a specific standard, expectation, and style, and the reboot deviates from that so heavily. But honestly, I really think for an action game, especially in the early 2010s, this game is pretty damn solid. And if these weren't meant to be the new versions of Dante, Vergil, Mundus, so on, I don't think this game would get the hate that it deserves, and to be honest, I don't think it entirely deserves it. Just the fact that it's called DMC, is supposed to be the new version, hangs over everything else and keeps people from being able to look over all the flaws. I also honestly had a bit of a crackhead idea that if these characters weren't given the names they were, you could even make an attempt to connect to the main series like a side game to enroll into continent or region. We know angels exist in the main series. It's entirely plausible for an angel to fall in love with a demon. It's entirely plausible for a new demon lord to come about. We see it happen in DMC 2 with Argisax, who's known as Overlord Argisax in the Japanese, or Yurzin in 5, so who's to say another can't arise, kill the angel who harbored 2 demon children, and capture the demon. We know other devil hunters not affiliated with the Devil May Cry crew exist in the franchise, like Lucia and the Order of the Sword. Hell, in lore, Lady is an independent freelance devil hunter. She just works for the DMC crew. She's not actually a member. She's effectively the Woolzard to their Magi Rangers. So everything about the game could fit into the main DMC franchise, just like a side game, but that's beside the point. That's me tangenting on little crackhead ideas. This is a good game. A very good game with great music, solid level design, and interesting bosses, and so on. For all the issues I have with the story, I truly don't believe that's enough to hate the entire game personally. And after replaying the game for this video, researching things behind the scenes, and even digging into some of what makes this game tick, I ultimately found myself just feeling fine. Because honest to God, this game is just fine. The story kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth, but everything else was fine. It's not better than 3, 4, or even after the fact 5, but it's definitely better than 2, and I'd argue comparable to 1 in terms of overall quality. Hell, I'd personally put it over 1. I think the reboot is a really good game. Just not the greatest DMC game because it deviates from so many things that make Devil May Cry, but it's still clear of whatever the fuck Netflix is doing with the anime. So anyways, now that I'm done with the reboot and season 2 of the Netflix anime is either on the way or here, depending on when this video drops, it might be time to cover the main series. So if you want to see me do that, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And if you don't, tell me how much you hate my takes and how much I suck, let's go to the YouTuber and the VTuber in the comment section down below. I'm gonna be out of here now. Peace out and enjoy yourselves, everybody. Christ on a pike, it feels good to be done with this video. Goodbye.
Still you don't listen. Those that we were never broken. Almost made us of the contention. Back up, get out of the way too late. You feel pity. You'll steady